minutes for it to come on. We don't have an intro.
Yeah.
We're just
Here's
just
your intro
spinning,
sound.
just a spinning.
Oh, it says
spinning.
live over here on my end.
Does it? I'm just seeing
Yeah.
the
Oh
spinning.
yeah, I think we're in. We're alive.
Welcome
All right.
to the show. No.
And welcome, welcome, folks, to our first ever Star Wars show. We don't have a name yet. We just figured it is Star Wars week, so we wanted to talk Star Wars before we get this thing officially off the ground. I am James Schmeitz. With me today, we've got Kev Nevick, who is apparently a part-time Padawan, and our boy John. John, how are you today, buddy?
Doing pretty good, man. Yeah, I'm glad we could kind of get to this week and kind of it's I guess Cinco de Mayo today, but May the 4th was just yesterday. Like
Yep.
it's a good kind of in between time before we get to Ahsoka, all that other stuff.
It's coming. It is coming. Yeah, I wore my Darth Vader shirt yesterday on the show, so I didn't think I should wear it 2 days in a row. However, he is here. He is making an appearance. I borrowed his helmet. He's traveling the galaxy right now. So, Kev, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I am great. I have been really looking forward to this. I need to upgrade my backdrop. It's very sports heavy, but there is at least one Star Wars Funko Pop back there. And you can't see Jedi Survivor next to my Notre Dame thing, but I do have some Star Wars gear. I'm very excited to add to the studio. But I have been waiting for this for a long time, just to do a Star Wars only deep dive on Dweeb. And so the idea that we're going to be doing it for weeks at a time is just it's just making me super happy, man. This is the best of both worlds for me today. So forgive me if I just look like a guy who's way too happy to be here.
No, this is something we've been talking about for a bit. Like we floated this around, and I think we recently found out, John, that you were a huge Star Wars fan, and we didn't know that. I guess we'll start off with, let's go a little bit of background. Like, I know, Kev, I'll start with you because I know we were talking pre-show, your Clone Wars background. What have you watched? What have you not watched? I know there's some things you haven't seen, and I'm going to call you out for one of them.
Absolutely, as I deserve, but it goes all the way back for me. You know, you're going to get a little bit of a get to know your host moment here. So very quickly, I am halfway adopted. All right. So my father is my adopted father. So the very first thing that we ever bonded over was Star Wars. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and he sits me down. We watch A New Hope, and then
that's cool.
I am hooked, man. I'm in, 9 years old in bunk beds with I had this Millennium Falcon Vulcan. I had this Millennium Falcon as well. I called it back in the day. It was a gun that shot these little Nerf discs. And, I just remember sitting there, pretending I was literally flying a spaceship in my bunk bed. Fast forward to the prequels coming out at the perfect age for me. I think I'm 10 years old when the prequels come out. So I loved them. I had the PlayStation 1 prequels video game, which was pretty sick back in the day. And so, yeah, I loved the prequels. I was at the right age for me to not know the bad dialogue, all those things that kind of the adult Star Wars fans killed it for. Wasn't a huge Jar Jar fan, but I would love to one day spend one episode about the Darth Jar Jar theory, because it's my favorite what might have been theory. So I've watched some Clone Wars. I have not watched Rebels. This is the one that James is going to beat me up about. I am aware of it. I know how it ends. I know a lot of the characters. It's on my list. But yeah, so I've seen all of the sequel trilogy stuff. Who does? I love Darth Jar Jar, man. I love the idea of it. There's someone put together a 45-minute video based on a Reddit post. The thing has legs, man.
This. I don't know anything about legs.
I haven't either.
I'm gonna share.
I've heard of it. I think I've scrolled past a video that's.
I don't know anything about it.
I promise you, it will make you have a new appreciation for what could have been. And I will spare you, but there's a lot of parallels between the way Yoda was presented early on and what they maybe were trying to do with Jar Jar. It's sort of
Okay.
like poetry in that they rhyme, right? Yoda was incredibly annoying early on. Like when you think back, we have like wise Yoda, but you know, if you've ever seen the bad lip reading, Seagulls Stop It Now, you know, it just kind of puts a little new flavoring on how goofy Puppet Yoda was the first time we saw him.
He was
so
goofy.
but that's about it. You know, I've seen most of the new stuff. I'm very invested into the lore, obviously because of my Clone Wars fanhood. Big fan of Dave Filoni. So I'm very happy. I missed Star Wars Legends. You know, I'm a kid. I still have some of those comic books from back in the day that are no longer canon. You know, the Bounty Hunter run stuff. They did a comic that was strictly about the Imperial Guard. You know, I had a couple of those comics. It just so much lore. I love Star Wars. I said this in the pre-show because the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. So even when we find things that irritate us, there's just such a rich, luscious, you know, lore base to go back to. So there's my 10 minutes. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. That's why I love Star Wars. Pencils down.
Kev, have you seen Andor? That was the one I was going to kill you for.
So
haven't you?
Yes, I am I'm in the third episode.
Okay.
Yep, love it.
Okay. John, you want to fill me in a little bit? See what you know, what you've missed. See if you're Kev just blows my mind on some of the stuff he hasn't watched.
Yeah, no, I'm also a second generation fan. I was 7 when Revenge of the Sith came out. My dad and I saw it in theaters 3 times.
That's awesome. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, like I was just in there, and I had seen the old ones. I had seen the first 2 before that one came out, so I was already in there. My best man in my wedding is also like a huge. We carpooled to kindergarten, and that was one of the first things we like. So we were super nerdy at a young age too, when like that stuff was still coming out. I've seen Clone Wars. I really like the old one. That's it. It's not.
It's not canon. Yes, you're talking about the animated, almost a hand-drawn one, right? It's got the same exact name.
I think it came out in like 2003.
It came out right before the canon Clone Wars came out. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
And that was pretty cool. But I've seen the other one, seen Rebels. Yeah, all the movies. I haven't read as many books as I want to in the future, just because there's a lot.
There's a ton.
That are even in the new canon.
I got you on one recently though.
The one, and that one had a whole in the intro. It had the whole list of all the books and where they fall.
And it's just like,
I got the hardcover one. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into some of these.
Yep.
But yeah, I actually just got my dad to start Clone Wars because he didn't want to do the animation. And he texted me about episode 8, and he was like, Jar Jar ... And I was just like, yeah, like some of those episodes are probably skippable. And he was like, I think I hate him. So yeah, he's that's you watch like Phantom Menace now, and it's kind of just nostalgic enough to stomach Jar Jar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's he detracts from most scenes where you kind of have to be like, you know, suspending your disbelief that some of the most powerful people in this universe are just like palling around with this idiot.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, whatever. But yeah, I think the only I've seen Andor. I think the only significant piece of like any of the recent stuff I didn't see all of was Boba Fett, just because I watched like the couple of episodes that tie in season 2 and 3 of Mando.
Yep.
But once it got to the Boba Fett show, I was kind of just out. Like, I don't know. It didn't really pull me in.
Yeah,
I guess.
we'll talk. We're gonna talk about that. Kev's got some
Yeah.
choice thoughts on that, and I
But
don't think
outside of that, I think I've seen it all. Yeah.
Nathan's got a hot take here that I don't think is really that hot. Like I think there's an argument on this.
It's probably tier 1.
It's so if there's a tier, it's absolutely tier 1. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev.
Oh, I was just gonna say I would at least say of the Disney era, right? Was Rogue One in the Disney era?
Yes, Rogue One is
right?
Disney.
It was the
very first one, right? Or second one? Was it? I can't remember.
It might have been second behind The Force Awakens, maybe.
That's right.
The Force Awakens was fine.
Yeah,
and then
I'm okay. Came out, and it's like, oh shit, like they got this figured out.
Yeah. I loved the whole little ragtag team in that movie.
Oh, so good.
It was so good.
Epic Vader sequence. Epic.
Oh yeah.
And it's so quick.
Probably the best one
so
on screen we've ever seen.
I would agree with that. Nathan says second. Force
is that a question or is he? He's saying it came out after. Okay.
Yeah, so he's saying second.
Second.
Yeah. He's saying second best. I don't think that's a hot take. I got really into Star Wars with the Clone Wars. And I go like, oh, Justin Herbert making a
Justin's up in here.
Justin Herbert stopping in talking basketball here. I don't know what's going on. I know the game's going tonight.
That's because Dweeb's Facebook isn't up and running yet, so I decided to live stream it on my Kev Nevick. So we've got Justin Herbert, dear friend of the show, getting ready for some basketball. Don't worry. Hey, Thursday night, we got you, brother. We will be here talking basketball all night long, Lionel Richie style.
Yep. Clone Wars for me was where I got really into it. So Revenge of the Sith I think Revenge of the Sith might hold my a special spot as my favorite Star Wars movie. I love it.
There's just so many fucking lightsabers. It's like all I ever wanted when I was
exactly. That's all I wanted. I just wanted wild, ridiculous lightsaber. That's all I cared about. Like, don't give me these like real life sword battles. No, I want the extravagant, the ridiculousness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
But Revenge of the Clone Wars, I started watching it when I had my first ACL surgery when I was around 23, so probably like 10, 11 years ago when it was coming out. And my little brother was young. He would have been he'd been in grade school, he was a kid, little guy. And I was sleeping on the couch and I was watching it, and he started watching it with me, and he would start sneaking downstairs at night. So mom would send him upstairs to go to sleep, and then he'd sneak his way back downstairs. And mom would I'll never forget, my mom found him on the couch one morning, and she's like, I'm going to kill you. She's like, it's 7:30 and I can't get him off the couch. He's like, how late was he up? And I'm like, you don't want that answer. You don't want that answer. Now my brother, he's a sophomore in college now, and that's all we talk about. We text about it all the time. So it's been awesome. We're going to go fan question here. Nate's killing it here in the comments for you. Favorite Star Wars video game? This one is interesting.
John, you want to go first? I can't go first. I'll name them all, so then that'll leave you guys with nothing.
So mine is Empire at War
on
the computer game. It's kind of like a big old galactic conquest, ground in space. If you haven't played it, came out in like 2006, but I'd say it's
decently old.
Yeah. There's a lot of mods to it though, that are awesome. But then it kind of right there though for me is Battlefront 1.
Like the
PS2?
Yeah, PS2.
OG one, right? Yeah.
I was just saying that pre-show, talking about Battlefront 2. I was like, I'd rather have the PS2 one, but we'll
say what you will about the no sprint. But yeah, I just say what you will about the no heroes or whatever. But dude, yeah, that one was one of my favorites. It was just so, like the maps were awesome. It was so smooth. You could actually get people to follow you consistently. Like in 2, it was really finicky. I don't know. I just thought it was so good. Me and my buddy who I carpooled with, we would play for like the 20 minutes we had waiting to get driven to school. Like in the morning, we'd hop on, play a quick Hoth or something. But yeah, those are probably my two.
Kev, what do you got?
I like, let's see. Well, first of all, I'm going to name a couple just because it's kind of hard for me to pick one. So I'm thinking of it out loud. I really liked Battlefront, PS2 Battlefront.
Yep.
The Knights of the Old Republic was a game that I wish I'd had more time to play. It was one that like I got really into it and quickly realized I wasn't going to have enough time to do it
I've
properly.
never played it.
Oh,
and I know it's I know it's I know, trust me, it's one of those like like it's not only just a great Star Wars game, it's like a pantheon RPG game. Like whenever they talk all-time RPGs, that game is always mentioned.
You were talking about with your brother in Clone Wars. I once after college, I had a roommate who lost a job and decided, I'm going to take a week before I really dive into this job search. I'm just going to enjoy life. So what did he do? He dusted off his desktop, busted out Knights of the Old Republic, and that motherfucker did not go back to work for 2 months. He just played that game for 6 weeks.
Life of a Jedi is tough, man.
Because
like,
it's
tough.
it sucks you in, man. You never getting out. Other than that, I already mentioned how much I liked the episode. I think it was the episode 1 video game on the PS1. That's an honorable mention. It doesn't really hold up today, but it was great for the time. So yeah, I'll stop there, James, and see what else you've got to add.
This is a good one. I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I really did.
Yeah,
the Force Unleashed series, like those were fun. You get a little glimpse of playing Vader. I will say, Jedi Fallen Order is fantastic. I love that game. Like it's recent. It's a recency bias, but man, it's good. I am playing Survivor right now. I'm going to hold that judgment. It's been really fun. Other ones, like Rogue Squadron, the Rogue Squadron game on GameCube. I've played it a little bit, but people love that game.
I had that on N64.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, that's
that's
a good one.
Yeah, one of the main reasons I bought a PS5. So there were very specific games I had to get. I had to get God of War Ragnarok because it's exclusive. Then obviously Spider-Man 2 is exclusive on it. Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive, and the KOTOR remake is exclusive. However, it's in some weird development hell right now that I don't know what's happening at the moment. But it is announced and exclusive, but nobody knows what's going on with it. So that I cannot wait for the game. I need to go back and play the original. Did anybody recognize this game? Because I don't.
Is he Bombad Racing? Was it like a pod racing kind of thing? What was the
screw pod racing?
Didn't they have that? I feel like they had a game that came out after episode 1 that was like Road Thunder or whatever, but it was just like it was strictly a racing pod. Like it was some weird. That was the Wild West of not just Star Wars content, but video games in general. It wasn't quite the Nintendo era where you had all these unlicensed knockoffs that were getting in there. But it was more like everyone was licensing everything to every little small company. Like this, even in the sports world, this was before exclusive stuff. So you could have 14 different Star Wars games all at different qualities. This
is pre-EA buying the NFL license and
then every other license
2K
and Star Wars, but that's
ruining everything.
And
exactly, just that all went downhill when they got that license and NFL 2K ended. It says there was a battle function to it. It had to be. It sounds like a Mario Kart ripoff with Star Wars is what I'm feeling here.
Nate, tell me more about this game from the Mandela effect, from whatever universe you came from, because I've never heard of it.
Oh, he's going to drive. He's going to swing by.
Which means you'll see it right here on Dweeb, because I have one of those old school capture cards where I can stream PS2 games. So we got you, boys. Look out.
Underrated. The Lego Star Wars games, I'll stand by. Very fun.
Yep. Very fun. Yeah.
The Skywalker saga that came out last year, so I have a rule on it. Like I can only play it with my brother. He lives in Nebraska. I live in Indiana. So every time I go home, I pack my Xbox One up and we'll play it while I'm back. It's the only time I can play it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, I think we're on episode 3, maybe, like of the 9. It's so stupid. Like, it's gonna take us 10 years to beat it.
That
So
is great. I have the
Those-
same
those
experience though. My
Played
brothers,
pretty well though.
they do. They play.
yeah,
It was
they're
the
fun,
one
man.
game I could, because we have similar age gaps with our brothers there, James. My brother is a freshman in college this year.
Mhm.
So we were same thing. When he was growing up, Lego Star Wars was one of the few games that was age appropriate that I could
Yes, that's
stomach
kind of the same
playing
thing.
with
Yes,
him. Yeah.
yes.
And then it turned into, it's like, you know what? This is actually a pretty good game. You know,
Yes.
even as an adult, I'm sitting here like, all right, well, yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm
When
not,
you talk
I'm not
licensed
challenged.
games, like licensed games have a tumultuous history. Like those Lego Star Wars games were pretty fun. And like you said, when you talk age appropriate, like that was the same thing to me. Like we can actually play this because it's not out of his realm.
Exactly.
You know. Yeah, Kev, we're gonna have to see this game. I've never heard of this thing before, and Nate's talking like it's Mario Kart with Jedi and Star
can't
Wars.
wait
Which
to
sounds
see it.
fantastic.
One other one I should mention is the game that came out based on episode 3. It was
Yes.
on
PS2 game.
PS2. Yep.
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 There were like 17, 18 levels or something, and you kind of played through the movie basically.
Mhm.
Yep.
That was a good game.
Yeah.
That was really fun for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah, playing through that final battle was pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so cool,
exactly.
man. Like,
You got to do like all the duels or whatever. There were side modes.
give me. It would be so cool if they gave us an episode 3 game right now, like based on this Survivor Fallen Order game engine, where you got to play as Anakin. Oh,
Yeah.
God, that'd be so cool.
Talking about Clone
Fallen
Wars. Yeah,
Order.
dive back into that.
Oh, the
Give me-
Clone
give me some
Wars
Clone
stuff.
Wars video games. Yeah.
One of the best. Oh yeah, that's it. That would be awesome because it would look exactly the same.
You could literally just use the just basic,
Yep.
just like on that. Yep, bang, bring those
Yeah.
guys back into voice. Oh my God, it'd be so cool.
That would be perfect.
Which, by the way, I think we can all agree on how cool it was to see that Hayden Christensen finally got his due in the last year as someone that was critically panned and blamed a lot for George Lucas's and the script's failures and et cetera as a young actor. To see him at Star Wars Celebration in the last year and the place erupt and him get a moment, not just as Darth Vader, but as Anakin Skywalker again, was it's one of the coolest things you'll ever see.
Because he just is that character though too.
He is, man.
Like so as much of like at the time maybe was nitpicking his delivery or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, you asked George Lucas, that's exactly what he wanted out of the character. He's supposed to be very conflicted and very like angsty.
Mm-hmm. He's a teen. Yeah, he's an angst-ridden kid, teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he deserves it because he and Ewan McGregor is awesome.
Yeah,
he's the
unbelievable,
shit.
Man. Yes,
he's my favorite character in those movies just because he's so. I don't know. I feel like he's just so spot on.
He's perfect. Like he's just perfect.
Yeah, but then you know, I think you see since he was on screen, Hayden Christensen anyway. There's been the Clone Wars. There's been that fleshing out of his character through that. And then I think a lot of it too was knowing Ewan was coming back to play his role. You were like, man, if you get Darth Vader, it's got to be Hayden. Can you get him back? And like, I feel like that too was such an awesome like fan service and like. That kind of got everybody hyped up too. So it was both of them coming back. Like it had to be, you know. And
it couldn't just be one. It just couldn't.
It's been like that amount of time too in like their lives almost as
like in the flashback sequence with Anakin in it, you could definitely tell he's way older. Don't care. I'm cool. Don't care.
Right.
Don't care that he's got crow's feet on his eyes at 18 years old. I don't give a crap.
It could have been half flashbacks like that show Arrow, and I would have been fine if he looked 37 or whatever.
Don't care. Yeah, I'm cool. It should have been perfect. Half. It would have been all of that.
Yeah.
Clone Wars has got an interesting like history with specifically with the Disney buyout, because Clone Wars was going and then Disney bought it out and there was an abrupt Clone Wars end. And then they released those, I can't remember what they called them, but they released those unfinished episodes that you could watch, and it was the Bad Batch episodes is what it was. Like some of them were the bad, but they were unfinished animation and all that. And then they announced the new movies, and there was then Rebels came along, and all of a sudden, like the Clone Wars fan base has always existed, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, they announced they're going back. They're finishing the last season. Like Clone Wars has got just a weird place in how everything fell out with Disney.
Yeah, because George was super hands-on with it.
Yes, George was super hands-on it, and that is Filoni's first show. Like and he talks about it all the time. Like his influence was George Lucas. He would sit in writers, like sit with him and talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and now you see, I mean, he's getting his own movie now. He's not the Kevin Feige, but he's damn near as the Kevin Feige.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to say on this episode too, is that like they have so much potential to do like the Marvel verse thing, with all the shit they can push out. And they're kind of getting there with diversifying the Disney Plus stuff.
Their announcements in the last couple of weeks, when they announced the new timeline, how they're doing like the High Republic, they're going after the new critically panned movies. A lot of their stuff has been focused in this Mando area, which we'll get to, and they're branching out, which is great because there's plenty of stuff out there. I don't know. I know there's High Republic books and comics. I have not read any of them. But that's a ripe era. And they specifically mentioned Knights of the Old Republic, that era. It's like, oh, like this is going to get real. And that's what they need to do. Star Wars doesn't need to center everything on the Skywalkers. As much as we love them, they don't like have to all be about them.
Retweet. Smash the retweet button.
Rey didn't need to be a Skywalker.
No. Yes. She didn't have to be. It was cooler when she was random and nothing, because that's what Anakin was.
And that's at a point like in A New Hope, that's kind of who Luke was, right? Like when it's only throughout the story that it's like, oh yeah, you're a chosen one. But that's I would have loved it so much. Yeah, for Rey to go back to that whole idea, the hero's journey, the fact that it could be anyone.
Yeah.
That greatness is inside anyone, not just a Skywalker or a Palpatine. Like in a vast galaxy, apparently there's only 9 important people. It's one of my few critiques where I'm like, really didn't need that. It didn't add anything for me personally. It kind of weakened it, if I'm being honest.
And when you factor in, no matter what you think, if you think The Last Jedi is good or not, it is canon, and all episode 9 did was retcon everything. Like the very last scene of The Last Jedi is the little kid, and you're like, oh, that kid's about to be a Jedi. Like he's looking at I think he's looking at a little figurine, isn't he? And
he brings the broom to him with the Force or something.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
Subtle,
And then you start the next movie off and you retcon everything, and all of a sudden Rey is a Skywalker, and there's dyads and stuff. Star Wars has never been good. Specifically, the Star Wars movies have been horrible about explaining things. Like they just like, all right, here's a 5-year gap, and if you didn't know what happened in the middle, you're not going to know, but there's trade federations and this planet's gone and this person, like, it's just, they're really bad at that.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
And oh my God, that meme is so bad.
Well, you talk about like, maybe some of the guff Hayden Christensen got that wasn't deserved. Same thing goes for like Daisy Ridley and John Boyega. And I cannot remember the Kylo Ren actor's name, but he's good in other
Adam
stuff.
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Star Wars fans are nasty. Like they are. That's
and a lot of it's just like how poorly written they were. Like, how can you expect somebody to really own a character and like really flesh it out on screen organically when they don't know the backstory of their character? Because like Daisy Ridley was told, because the director switch, she was told like, oh, I think initially she was told she was like a Kenobi or something.
That was the big rumor. I was all about it. I was like, if she is a Kenobi descendant, like I'm about this.
That would be tight. But then
half Kenobi, half Mandalorian. Yeah, that'd have been pretty awesome, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Instead,
And
she
didn't
is
know. And John Boyega was like, okay, am I going to be a Jedi?
John
Okay.
Boyega was
Certainly felt that way.
yeah,
right?
like the marketing materials made it seem like, well, isn't there a poster where he's got a lightsaber in his hand?
Yeah.
Blue one, he's like got it like this.
Doesn't
right?
he
And it's going
use
across.
it at one point?
He
For a
definitely
real brief second? Yeah, and they
he
had it in a
uses it.
poster. Except, I mean, not the ones that made it to China, but they had
He
some
also
posters. where-
uses like the little purple swing blade thing. I can't even think of what it's called. Them stupid.
Oh yeah,
troopers
those
had it in
little
the Jedi
little
games.
plasma sticks
batons,
that
yeah,
the
the plasma, yeah.
batons that
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
somehow better than like I don't like those weapons. I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
them, but they keep getting more play because they do kind of look cool. But
They look cool.
I
They're
don't know.
not
It
fun
just
to fight against.
in a world where
Yeah.
there's a lightsaber, it's like why wouldn't you just have one of those?
Exactly. Nate has a really good question here, and I'm interested to get your guys' takes on it because Solo was the first whoops, and I think that caused a lot of problems. Do you guys think Solo 2 should have happened? I will go out on a limb, and I'm going to state this one up front. I don't think Solo 1 should have happened. I think where they screwed up is Rogue One is a fantastic story set in the timeline. It's about characters we didn't know about. Solo 1 should have never happened because there's only one person that is Han Solo, and it's Harrison Ford. Like, you're never going to put somebody else in that role and get people to buy into it. And I think, regardless of whether you think it's a good movie, I think it shot itself in the foot from the beginning because the fandom was like, what are we doing? Like, we don't want this. Like, we don't want this.
You know what they should have done is just given Donald Glover a Lando movie and kept Han out of it.
Yeah,
like
I was just gonna
John,
say I did
go with
like
it.
Donald Glover as Lando though.
There he is.
Yep.
It sounds like there is a Lando TV series going to happen because he was just talking about it recently. Like he's not out of that role. Like he was fantastic in that role. And I'm not saying the guy that played Han was bad by any means. I'm just saying I don't think
it's a hard act to follow.
It's
man.
like a new Indiana Jones movie. It's Harrison Ford. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically after all that time, like Harrison Ford would never ever want to come back to Star Wars, et cetera, to get to that. It's just like, I think at the time they would have been better off. The rumored movies were Rogue One, the Han Solo one that happened. It was the Boba Fett movie and the Yoda movie. And I think they would have been better. I think a Yoda movie would have killed it. And I think you could have done Boba Fett better than you did with his own TV shows.
I would say as long as it wasn't the same plot as the series, then okay. But
yeah. Right.
Yeah, you could just do like Jetpack John Wick and it would crush.
Yes, exactly. Which I think is a good leading into this. We're going to talk Mandoverse. And I guess I should have said this 33 minutes ago. If you're here watching, you're in the comments, there are mega spoilers coming. We've already spoiled.
Yeah,
if you're here, like it's too late. But
yeah.
Kev, I'm going to let you lead this off because you've mentioned it multiple times in our Discord chat already. You have some choice thoughts. Me and John were talking a little bit when you were off camera about our thoughts on it. So I'm going to let you lead this off. We're talking Mandalorian season 1, 2, 3, the Book of Boba Fett, and then we'll get into where this leads in upcoming shows, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, the movie, all that.
This will be very interesting because I have had, you used the word earlier, a tumultuous relationship. That is a great way to describe my relationship with the Mandoverse. I am one of the few people, I think, who maybe feels a little better about season 3 than I did about other seasons. I will admit, season 2, I tapped out early, about halfway into the season, and said, let me fast forward to the end. I want to see the Luke Skywalker bit that I've heard all about. I was just done with Mandalorian. I didn't think I was going to come back to season 3, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. After what I saw in the Book of Boba Fett, and I said, wow, you set all of this stuff up just to undo all of it in another show? Like, nah,
They're very good at that right now, Star Wars.
Yeah. Very frustrating. Now, that being said, the issues that I have with Mandalorian did not go away in season 3. The term I like to use for this show is a fetch quest.
I laughed at that earlier.
Half of the show feels like a subplot in a Fallout game. Like, so much of this, Mando feels like that character in the RPG that just doesn't give a shit about getting to the main mission. He's the me that plays it. You know, instead of Fallout 4, you're supposed to be chasing after your dad. But hey, let's go spend 60 hours in the wasteland doing all these other small things first. You know, let me go help you get this book of groceries and whatever the weird side quests are. That's all. That's like every other Mando episode is a little one-off. You end up right where you started. Oh, I need this part for my ship. Well, you got to get it from the Jawas. Well, the Jawas need you to kill this monster and grab its eggs. Okay. And after 60 minutes, we're right back where we started. That being said, I like where the story's going. I just sometimes I don't feel like it has earned its runtime. If you're make 6 episodes instead of 8, then if you don't have 8 episodes worth of content, stop giving me filler nonsense that goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pause because I that may make it sound like I absolutely hate The Mandalorian. I don't, but I have a lot of issues with it. So I mean, how do you feel about it, James?
I am pulling something up here. So
okay. Well, I will.
John,
I
I'm gonna let you take
my rant.
yeah,
John, how about you? Somebody say some nice things.
Your boy Nate just sent something fantastic, so I was prepping it. So go ahead,
John. I'm right there with you. It's almost like they wanted to have them be standalone at a certain point, like every episode. But it's like, and I feel like this whole season was, you know, what you're talking about is kind of like a microcosm of what I feel like this season was. Just kind of like, all right, well, let's just kind of reset it and build back up to a new, villain that's going to, draw your attention or kind of leave you in a cliffhanger. But like the finale of season 2 was way up here, and then everything in season 3, like especially like the Dr. Pershing episode. What the fuck are we doing, guys?
Weird.
What are we doing? That was the longest episode, and it's like, at a certain point, like, and then the snaky gal who was on Gideon's ship, the other the one who like tricks the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She sucks. Why are we like that is the worst like tangential arc I think I've ever seen in all 3 seasons of this. Like, but I mean the season, but it had high highs for me too, so I'm kind of like in the 5, 6 out of 10. Like, I liked it. And I don't think that like, -4 or 5 is me getting picky. I think a lot of it is just comparing even to like season 2 or like what I've actually really liked out of this, story. So I don't know. I was whelmed, like I said to James pre-show.
I love that word. I think that's a great way to put it. Like I agree with that. It's interesting because Mandalorian, the first season, first live action show, comes out at a time when Star Wars is not great, coming off of the Rise of Skywalker. And it's so different. There are no Skywalkers. It's just completely different. I think seasons 1 and 2 are fantastic. Like, I disagree with Kev. Like, I love
and
those.
It just crushes. Yeah, it was so good.
You have the weird Boba Fett announcement, which came in an after credits scene, and you didn't really know what it was, and it was just kind of a weird announcement. And then you don't even give him his own show. Like, he gets started, and then all of a sudden Mandalorian season 3 starts, which is actually the Book of Boba Fett. And you retcon everything. All of a sudden, Ahsoka's in it. You've got Luke Skywalker's back, and all it takes 3 episodes, and Grogu's leaving again. So you're like, so the whole first 2 seasons are completely worthless because now he's going back. So the quest was dumb. And then my biggest gripe with season 3, and me and Kev talked about this off camera before, is the Mandalorian title, like in them saying it doesn't necessarily just go towards Pedro Pascal's character. It's really season 3 is really Bo-Katan's show.
Mm-hmm.
And it just never seems focused. And then, like we were joking about the Lizzo and the Jack Black, them showing up, like none of the stakes seem to matter until like the last 2 episodes.
Exactly.
And you like the Dr. Pershing episode, like is weird. That girl, the other character in that episode, like if I never see her again in the show, I'm cool. Like so weird and just so typical Star Wars campy. Like I don't need it. And
it was interesting to see like Coruscant.
Coruscant was cool to see again.
It was cool it was there, but like, oh yeah, that whole episode, I was like, oh, it's 53 minutes or whatever. Like, let's see. And then the little part where it was Mando was cool, but it's like, why was it 80-20, Pershing and this weird.
Yeah, like the Mando part was good, but it was like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like 5 at the beginning, 5 at the end. And it doesn't really matter, does it? Like they killed the guy that was cloning for the Empire that was trying to save it. Like it's
just a
where does that go? Never got resolved.
Never
just
gets
like
resolved.
39 minutes of vapid eyes and like a weird grin that you're like, why is he trusting her?
Yeah, you're like, what the heck? And I think there's some interesting
cookies.
There's almost some kind of like
the wafers or whatever.
Yeah, that is Jesus. That's right. There is some interesting Andor parallels that are really buried. Like you see the remnants of like what's going on with the Empire, like these people getting reintegrated, like where he has to meet with the robot counselor. Like there's some interesting things, but the overall, like they're buried in the overall story. It doesn't matter because, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the only episode Dr. Pershing's in this whole season?
Yes. If maybe there's
a second.
Like maybe there's a lead in
the following one after the little mind flayer thing. Maybe not though. It might just be that.
Like, I don't think
could have been so condensed. Like all we needed to know was he's rehabilitated and now they're going to try to brainwash him.
Yeah, it could have been a B plot.
Like just the train scene or like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Which, don't even get me started on the train scene. We have to dodge this slow walking robot and then we will jump at complete random. There doesn't seem to be anything to make you assume that anyone knows where and they just so happen to jump at the exact right spot off the train. So it was a perfect plan that annoying little slow moving robot got there at exactly the right time to force them to jump. I mean, it was just, think about that for a second. Like I can't imagine how someone wrote that, someone else proofread it, and then the director had it in front of them and was like, yes, this tracks, this makes sense. Very frustrating.
This measures up to the rest of our,
this is what we're doing. Because it frustrates me because I really liked the Pershing story. That felt like that could have
there was something there.
In a Clone Wars setting where everything is a one-off, that was a great little story arc. I learned a lot about the incompetence of the New Republic and how in 30 years, because that's the other part that we kind of have glossed over, how bad did Leia and Luke fail that the Empire was able to reboot like immediately, which kind of sucks. So I like having that explained to me a little bit, but it could have been somewhere else. It doesn't need to be right there. And now that you've pulled up the Super Bombad Racing, we have a special guest here. I'm going to add him to the stream. Nathan is here.
He sent this in Discord, so this is a very real game, by the way.
Very real game. And just a reminder, you can join our Discord. I will
Darth
throw
Maul
the link.
Looks wild.
It really does look like a N64 deal, right? So Nate, tell us, was this Mario Kart but Star Wars?
So it basically was Mario Kart on steroids a little bit, just
on
because
steroids, all right.
I mean, it's small vehicles and big ass heads of Star Wars characters, like
that
legitimate.
Maul set is huge.
Like, I mean, it wouldn't seem like it would be a really good fucking game at first, but like, I'm serious. This is legitimately one of the more fun PS2 games I've ever
I
played.
have to look into this dang thing. I've never heard. I thought you were making it up. I also thought you
you
spelled
know,
Bombard
So
wrong. I thought it was Super
funny thing
Bombard
is,
Racing.
the funny thing is, I found this at a Toys R Us like way back when for like $15.
Throwback right there.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. It's legitimately fun. It's multiplayer. I don't really do the racing aspect of it like ever, although there's some good tracks on there just based on episode 1. But like it's way more fun than you think it is.
Oh,
I
I
believe that.
guarantee it's fun. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know this was a thing.
Mm-mm.
I look forward to playing. Well, since Nate still has his copy, I can promise you
Yeah,
that there will
you're
be
gonna- you're
footage of
gonna
this
see
game
it,
on
yeah.
this channel.
I
just
figured at
don't know
least it
when.
was like a few consoles older than that. Or
It
something.
looks, yeah, like it's interesting.
I mean,
Back,
it's legitimately goofy ass gameplay, but it's fun gameplay at the same time.
mhm. Back to the Mondoverse. Nate, do you have any comments to add to what we've been saying so far?
My only comment that I have to add in regards to Mando season 3, and for some reason now it's escaping me, it just basically reminded me of Stranger Things season 2 in terms of
Oh yeah,
when you were talking about the episode with Dr. Perishing and stuff, and where Mando's not really as involved. It's kind of the same thing in terms of episode, I want to say 7 or 8 in Stranger Things season 2, where she you know goes off and does her own thing briefly without like trying to spoil it very much. It just kind of reminded me of that. I'm not saying season 3 is a bad season, but it's definitely kind of just riding the coattails of season 1 and 2.
Yep. And I don't think it gets very, like, without Moff Gideon, there's no point to the series. Like, there's no villain, and I think it gets astronomically better when he shows up at the end. Again, spoiler alert for the 17th time. He is not dead, and I don't know if he's ever going to die.
Right.
But I
Yeah,
think
they
the
leave
last
that
2
one.
episodes I think are really good, but they're also very focused. Like, I think one of my biggest problems with the season as a whole is it just was not focused ever.
Yeah, I mean, maybe my part with the series as a whole at times, but yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. And yeah, there were too many little one-off episodes here. It did get a little bit better at the end. There are some spots that because I agree with you. People are of two minds, I think, with Moff Gideon. Some people are like, "All right, dude, enough. Give me a new villain." I'm opposite of that. I like having a I like building up this villain. Although again, it did feel frustrating that we ended season 2 with him in a certain situation, and by the time
Yeah.
we start season 3,
Retconned
like
it.
it's just unbelievable to me that a prisoner of this magnitude,
Got away.
like, no one would know. You had to go find the wreckage.
Yep.
Like, what kind of system are you running here, Leia? Which
Not
again,
very good. Not very good.
not cool, guys.
It have you seen the theory floating around that he's alive because his clones are going to survive? One of his clones is going to survive.
I have not looked to it deeply, but I've heard
Yeah.
that mentioned because some people were saying
The
because he
mustache.
didn't have a mustache
Yep.
that he was one of the clones. What I would say is it's weird that we didn't see him use the Force then. If he was a Force sensitive clone, seems like he probably would have used it at that point. But Nate, were you saying something?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
my bad.
I do have some background noise, unfortunately, because people are drumming on the street here.
They're celebrating Star Wars and the 5th of May in St. Louis.
Right. Nate, is that where you live? Do you live in St. Louis?
No, I live in Indy. We're just here in St. Louis. 'Cause
Okay,
my girlfriend is a Cardinals fan, so We're just
Oh,
catching a
nice.
couple games while we're out here.
They're no good this year. I'm sorry. They're no good.
I'm not sorry. Neither is Nate. Nate loves it.
Yep.
He just maybe can't admit it
Yep.
in front of present
Right.
company. But
Um,
go Cubs, go!
Yeah. So, yeah. It's just I think they botched Boba Fett. They by botching Boba Fett, they also botched end of season 2 of Mandalorian, and then I think I am kind of excited for the future. Like, and I think Kev's gonna disagree. I kind of like the Mando's story of the week that they used to do. Like now he's gonna go out doing these missions for the New Republic. Him, Grogu. Like I'm kind of excited. Like maybe we can get to see some different stuff, some different locations.
I agree. I actually, that's one of my favorite parts. I think about one of the saving graces for this whole season 3 just being a reboot is that it does kind of set us back on the season 1 track, which I would like, honestly. If you're going to do a story of the week show, then just do that, but don't try to give me an overarching storyline or tell me you're going to give me that, but then 2/3 of the season are actually just one-offs. Like if you're going to do a Clone Wars, but as the Mandalorian, where the titular Mandalorian may change episode to episode, I actually really like that idea. It's just not what was sold. And I love people start to mention this idea like, well, maybe Grogu is the Mandalorian, and maybe we've been looking at it because he's been there since episode 1, right? Like he's going to be the king of Mandalore in theory, right? So maybe he's our Mandalorian. I don't know, but yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, question for you here, Kev. How would you feel if, moving forward, the Mandalorian seasons onward ended up being like Black Mirror, with how they, none of the episodes are like really continuous with each other?
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, again, to me, I would say like that feels like a Clone Wars type show, which I really loved. And you don't have to be married to any one formula. There were a couple of 3-episode story arcs in the Clone Wars. They didn't always just say, okay, moving on. You can have continued storylines. It just becomes, the exception instead of the rule. I wouldn't mind that at all. I would much rather, honestly, have something like that than to continue to do what we're doing, which is to say these 15 people can, in the outer rim, mind you, and the farthest reaches of the galaxy where like nobody really cares. They're driving this entire. They're driving everything. So honestly, I would rather have a little more variety and cover this vast galaxy than just to say we're going to hang out on Tatooine and Navarro for another season. Like, no, I'm good. I've seen enough of Navarro. I've seen enough of Mandalore. Introduce some new characters. Like random complaint, but Apollo Creed, all right, ran the Bounty Hunters Guild, and he's got an entire planet that he needs to police. And he just keeps calling the same one guy, which, by the way, how is one guy going to protect the whole planet? Anyway. But so then there's the IG-11. It's like, that is such a great opportunity to introduce really new, cool characters into Star Wars, because you have a guy who was the boss of the Bounty Hunters Guild. Like, bring in any cool idea you've ever had, and we're going to like him because you're going to introduce him with Apollo Creed, and you're going to have him hang out with Din Djarin. Like, this isn't that hard, guys. You don't have to give us a Clone Wars or a pre-existing character every time. You can introduce new characters or steal them from Legends. Hello.
There's so many cool characters. I mean,
paging Admiral Thrawn. It's okay to do this. So, what about you guys? I mean, that's my take. I mean, John, what about you? Do you agree with my thought on or Nate's question was sort of, would you like Mandalorian to be more of a less focused on one and more of a hodgepodge? What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. They're kind of too in the middle of either side of that spectrum right now, where it's like, okay, are we, is this the character arc of Din Djarin and Grogu? Because this season didn't even have that much of them doing anything meaningful. Or is it going to be like, well, let's see what else is going on? Because it's like half and half. So it's like,
Yep.
okay, let's, yeah, I guess, yeah, is my answer. But yeah, just kind of commit to something a little bit more. It's like they were just kind of, there was like some trepidation about
Wishy-washy.
maybe not making enough money if they don't like,
Mm-hmm.
have it be Gideon again. Like, I don't know.
Well, and that's where the whole that's why we got forced Grogu back. I've heard this, and let me know if you guys think there's any legitimacy to this rumor. But the rumor that I've heard is that Jon Favreau is just as upset as the rest of us at being forced to bring Grogu back during Boba Fett. That the original plan, as I hear it, was to keep Grogu away from Din Djarin all of season 3, and at the end of season 3 would be when they would be reunited. Which again, you could very easily have hopped, a little B story. Go visit Grogu with Luke. So much of that stuff felt forced and rushed in Boba Fett anyway. It could have been half the season. Like those 2 episodes could have been half of this season, especially with all their little fetch quest stuff they like to add. So very frustrating. What do you guys think about that? Like, what obviously I think we all would have rather have seen that, but
and then you could have that would have you could have done something just like in Empire when Luke's like, he's like, Yoda's like, you must finish your training, and Luke's like, but my friends are in trouble, and he just like is like, I gotta go. Like Grogu could just like sense something,
It's sort of like poetry in that they rhyme.
Up. Yeah. I don't know. There was a lot of missed opportunity there, and I think it is Kathleen Kennedy just doesn't know jack shit about.
I would agree with that. I don't think she's been great.
And whoever her team of advisors is, but she's kind of the voice of it or the face of it when just because from a top down perspective. But she seems really in touch.
Nate, were you going to say something there?
Yeah, I was going to say that Grogu meme was honestly hilarious to see.
What, him in the armor?
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not the one I'm looking for. There's a very specific one that's got him in a Mandalorian helmet and a lightsaber, and I cannot find it. It's like I've been searching. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 minutes. If you heard the big rumor about what people think Grogu, where he's going to show up next outside the Mandalorian, like outside of this series. Have you guys heard about this one?
No.
They think he's going to be in the Rey Star Wars movie because he would be like, it's like set 90 years later. And they're like, he'd be almost the perfect age the way that species ages. And he would be the only living being connected back to the original Jedi Temple. So if she's going to rebuild the Order, nobody else is alive except Grogu. Could be the Yoda figure type. He wouldn't be as old, but he could be in that show. And that's the picture I'm trying to find is him with the lightsaber. And I know I've sent it to somebody. I just have to find it.
Yeah,
what do you like that one, John?
I do kind of like that one. I also think that it would help that movie. I think Rey's character needs a little help.
I think so too. I think she's underdeveloped.
She's very underdeveloped, and just some sort of bridge from a good series of stories to her series of stories to this point would really help kind of marry the two, bring some I'm obviously going to see it. Like I don't like the sequels much, but I think there are people who are just like a little less nerdy than me who probably won't see it just because they're like, that character's shit. Like, what are they going to do?
Oh, they're 100% not. Yeah, there's going to be people like
what are they going to do that reconciles all the issues from.
There is a good point you bring up. Like, you can just act like they don't exist and just avoid them and live in this prequel, this High Republic era, or you can just move past it and use Rey and just try to do the best you can after that. Like, you can't just not act like it exists. Like, for better or worse, it does exist. So now, are you just gonna avoid it completely or not?
Like you did with, the second episode of that particular trilogy. Like, are you gonna do the same shit and just be like, all right, don't worry about that. That was a different guy.
In my search for this picture, I came across this meme, so I hope you guys enjoy.
That's honestly classic right there.
That is fantastic.
Like, as I'm searching, I just found that one. I'm like, oh, I forgot.
I've seen that one. That's a really good one.
I was like, I don't know where that one's good. That is a great reference. God, I still haven't found this picture. But
that is fantastic. So, Nate, I think you got one last thing for us before you take your leave, huh?
Yeah, we got a long weekend this weekend, but I just wanted to say real quick, I don't know if this is a hot take or an interesting take, but I don't think this will ever get addressed, but I would love to absolutely see even just a limited series on the Hutts and just the crime lord stuff in Star Wars, and just see how that could be fleshed a little bit, even in I'm not saying like Jabba the Hutt or anything is a very popular character, but it would just be interesting, different take on the Star Wars universe, really.
I love that. Go ahead, James.
Goes back to Kev's his thoughts on just, it's not all centered around the Skywalkers on 15 characters. And that's a good way, even like you talk about that, like the Clone Wars stuff, that's a good way to, if you really wanted to bring Maul back and get him back on screen, because he takes over Crimson Dawn and the crime syndicate there. Like, that's a good one there.
I like that. And like, we've seen the Mandalorian and Boba Fett take the approach of like bringing back the spaghetti westerns. So what about like a Sopranos or Godfather-esque? You know what I mean? Like, we have had so many genres of crime movies at this point that you could do something with the Hutts that not only has a bunch of Star Wars nostalgia, but you could do that like what they've done with Mandalorian, like take aspects of these crime movies and bring it, but show it with a Star Wars take. And I think that'd be something that'd be really cool, Nate. I like that idea.
I think that's a really good idea. Like, again, you have this vast universe, you can do other things, and/or show that you don't have to do it all in one way. Andor is really kind of it's the Bourne writer that it did it, but it's almost, Kev, without spoiling too much, it's really almost the Bourne series in the Star Wars universe.
Nice.
It's so gritty and grimy and different. And Kev, there's one episode, and I want to wait till you see, there is a spectacular sequence in one of the early episodes, and it is Star Wars in a nutshell. Like, it gives you like giddy, like, this is really fucking cool. Andor is very good. And Rogue One's very good, and it shows that it can be done in other ways. If you wanted, you could do horror, you could do comedy, you could do, like you're talking. You don't have to do it all.
Exactly. When are we going to get a Star Wars horror film? Are you kidding me?
Right.
I don't know if I'd want it.
At this point, maybe not. Not while Disney's got it. But.
No, I'd just be scared. Yeah. Done well. A Star Wars horror movie could be. Well,
yeah, because haven't we have a Star Wars Christmas special or something like that?
Okay.
Yeah, it's not canon, right?
Although we wouldn't have the Mandalorians without that, by the way. That's where Boba Fett came first, was in the Christmas
You're
special.
actually right. Yes, he did. That is true.
Not to say we wouldn't have it, but,
You can do Christmas specials right, too. Like the Guardians Christmas special last fall was really tastefully done and led into the next movie.
Yeah, you just need Kevin Bacon, and then your Christmas story will be perfect. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Whoops.
He was in it's too late now. That was like 6 months ago at this point. I guess this will lead us into The next show coming up in the pipeline, so coming down the pipeline in August, right around my birthday, is the Ahsoka TV show. John, since you just got back, what are you expecting to see? What do you think's coming? Thoughts, comments, concerns? Give me everything you got.
Yeah, I think this will be our Thrawn bridge. I think this gets us there for Mando season 4. Because it seems like that's where she's headed for sure. Because I mean, the stage of her life she's in, she kind of senses the grandeur of the evil that's brewing. I feel like, like I feel like she kind of is in tune with that sort of stuff, and the timeline her show is on, I think, lines up where, at the very least you get a more of an introduction to Thrawn as like an overarching villain who could be that for a couple of seasons of either of both shows, frankly. And that will kind of bridge that gap. Like, one thing that worries me a little bit is, like, I just hope it stays her show. Because like what we talked about with Boba Fett, where it's like, okay, we have all these cameos. It's pretty much like a Mando. I hope it's very separate. You know what I mean? And follows her more closely and stands alone a little bit, even if it intertwines with, it can set something up for the other shows.
Well, I think it sets up the Filoni, like it's gonna all encapsulate and finish with the Filoni movie, right? That's where this is all going.
Right. Yeah,
I agree with you. Like, I don't want to see the Mandalorian. I don't want to see Grogu. I don't want to see the Mandalorian. I don't want to see Bo-Katan. I don't want to see any of them.
Yeah.
In the trailer, which the trailer, by the way, is epic, doesn't show
awesome.
any of them. Like,
nope.
I am very hyped for this movie. I have very high expectations. I think, and Kev doesn't know these characters at all because he's not a true fan.
Damn it.
Ahsoka, right, Nate? Ahsoka to me looks like a sequel to Rebels, which is odd considering Ahsoka is not a main character in Rebels. She is for one season.
Right.
But we've already seen, so Zeb makes his appearance in The Mandalorian, which he looks fantastic and sounds cool as shit. Yep. Sabine is confirmed. Hera's confirmed. Chopper obviously confirmed. And Ezra is in the trailer via hologram. So we know at the end of Rebels, Thrawn and Ezra take the Purrgil. They ride off into the sunset. Nobody assumed they were dead. We all knew that he wasn't dead. So the search is on for Thrawn. Ezra is obviously a huge part of that. One of my favorite things is the actor that is playing Thrawn in the live action show is Lars Mikkelsen. It's the same actor that voiced him in Rebels. Nice. So you're going to get that. He's fantastic as Thrawn. It's going to be awesome to see him back. I'm like you, though. I want it to be its own thing. I'm okay with all these Rebels characters coming back because they are a major part of Thrawn's storyline. But I don't want to see Grogu. I don't want to see Mandalorian. I don't want to see Bo-Katan. I don't want to see Luke Skywalker show up. I don't want to see any of them.
Yep. Exactly.
I want this specific.
So my thoughts on that is just, and this will be my final thoughts this evening. I don't necessarily opposed to that, as long as it's not like just a full-born Mandalorian season 3 episode in the Boba Fett Chronicles there. Like, it's okay to have like little drop-ins, one episode here and there, but if you're just going to hijack an entire episode of a different series, then I'm in the same boat as James there. So, but that's my final thoughts for the evening. I appreciate you let me jump on here, but yeah.
May the force be with you, Nate. Thanks for joining us tonight, buddy.
Of course, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We'll be Looking out for your posts over on Bite Size Sports tomorrow night from the Cardinals game. So check that out on Instagram. See if you
I
can't
hope
remember.
they do good, Nate. I hope they do good. They're not very good this year, though.
I hope they don't, but maybe for your case, Nate, you might have a long drive home if they don't perform. So you know what? I can't say it out loud. You know, I'm contractually obligated to never wish well for St. Louis as a Cubs
That's
fan.
correct. Yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
Peace out, guys, and the
Later, buddy.
be with you.
So Kev, let's get some of your thoughts. I know me and John have talked, and we got Nate there. What are your thoughts? What do you want to see in Ahsoka first season? What do you expect? What do you not want to see?
Well, I will start by agreeing. Hopefully, this won't turn into a bobblehead segment of the show, but I will agree with the idea that I don't want this to be a rerun of what we just saw with Boba Fett, in a sense of where you're going to force these characters that we like, that will sell toys down our throat, so that you can sell toys. Newsflash. I mentioned it a little bit. We talked about it before about the bad decision to bring Grogu back and how it was strictly built on toy sales and on numbers and on the studios. See, there's a problem. The people who are good at running businesses and running bottom lines usually don't have a creative bone in their body. So they can't understand how you could take a main character away for a few months and yet still be able to sell those toys. Newsflash, folks, Grogu not being on our screen for 8 episodes would not get kids to stop wanting that toy. He's still going to be there. He's still going to be in the episodes. There are ways. So I say that just to say, I have no faith that this Ahsoka show will not include other characters. So I will say that to say, find a way to do it tastefully. Find a way to give us a few seconds of this, a few seconds of that. Don't say we're going to have the only 2 people that can solve this particular issue for Ahsoka are Din Djarin and Din Grogu. No, please stop it. Introduce new characters, or if you're going to pull from Rebels, pull from Legends, bring stuff that, again, us nerds will pop for, but remember that not everyone watching these shows has done all the required reading. So not everyone's just going to pop for a Clone Wars or Rebels character showing up in live action. You might want to explain who these people are. If you want to build if you want to get new fans on board, you can't treat everybody like they should already know this stuff. So those are kind of my thoughts. Obviously, give us a little bit of that fan service. They're bringing in a storyline from Legend. Like I'm so hyped about Thrawn. I really hope they don't screw that one up. Yeah. Because I know where it goes, right? Because this is in between the sequel trilogy. Like, I have my concerns. But I think they have one of the best villains personally. Take it outside of Star Wars. This is just a great villain. This is one of the best villains in storytelling. So you've got all this source material. Just don't screw it up. Really, that's all I'm asking for. Like, just don't try to overthink this. Don't try to use this as a vessel to promote 4 other shows like you did with Mando early on. Just let this thing be its own thing and let us enjoy it. Just let us have Star Wars every once in a while. Without it being Disney Star Wars. I'm asking for too much, and I know it. But yeah.
I think you hit a good point with the Rebels characters. You probably do have to give some. We don't need a big exposition dump, but
right.
Who are they looking for? Why are they looking for them? I think you can do that pretty organically, bringing them back together. Because obviously, Zeb's already showed up. Sabine's in there. Hera's in there. You're gonna have to they're gonna end up on the same quest. They're all looking for Ezra. You're gonna have to explain Ezra a little bit. But do it organically, I think, is what is the best. What you're really trying to say. You don't need to shoehorn them in. We don't need Grogu to show up and save the day. Like, let these guys do their own thing. If there's a reason for Mandalorian to show up, great, like, organically, but don't just shoehorn him in. Correct? Like, that's what you're looking for.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Because I think they're going to shoehorn him in no matter what. So find a way that makes sense, that isn't too on the nose, and get it in and get it out. Right? Like, I'm going to be frustrated if this just turns into yet another. If this becomes Mando season 3.5, I'm going to be very frustrated, and I may go back to a point where I don't watch these week by week and I wait for a full season of something to be out,
Yeah.
and then I watch it all in one sitting to see if I want to jump back
Oh,
in.
you waited long enough on Andor, bud. Like, come on.
Hey, you know what? What's great is now I don't have to sit there and wait and suffer
That's
for
true.
a week. You know,
It was the first. It was first show in a long time. Like, man, oh my god, this wait sucks. It's like I give me this show. Which random thought here. I'm going to go completely off topic. Talking Boba Fett. As bad as the show was, it did introduce a animated villain that is beloved and fantastic, and I thought they did a pretty good job, even though he kind of looked kind of goofy in Cad Bane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't do him, his look wasn't perfect, but there's going to be some gaps with this animation to live action jump. There's going to be some weird stuff. Like, you can't make them all look perfect, and some are just going to look better in animation. And I thought they did a pretty solid job. The color's a little wrong, but I thought he did really good. But the acting, the voice was very solid, and it just sucks that he was sandwiched into a show that got hoodwinked. It got stolen by somebody else.
And
yeah, he's super badass. I like that
awesome.
appearance too.
Cad Bane's
Right.
awesome.
Cad Bane is phenomenal, but to that same point, even though I knew who he was,
Yes,
I knew how badass that he was, and I knew that history between Boba and him. It did feel like that wasn't like, it felt like they didn't do that justice, right? Like, if you were someone who was newer into Star Wars and you don't have that Clone Wars background, like, did that show give you enough to know to go back and want to watch that stuff? Because I think that's where Ahsoka has an opportunity. You know, I mentioned how, you know, you want to get the new viewers up to speed on who these people are. That also gives them a reason to go back and watch that stuff they haven't watched yet. You know, like, that's going to bring you money too, Disney. Like, people wanting to go back and watch Clone Wars, watch Rebels. Like, I felt like, yeah, Cad Bane, while it was so cool to have him there, and like, I don't really have too many critiques. I'd have to go back and watch, which, you know, that would be tough to sit through all of that just for that. But yeah, the look, you know, might not have been great, but I thought the voice acting was phenomenal. I thought the character's presence was that he was the kind of character where at least he's ominous enough that you can just have him show up, and he fits the Western stereotype of the brooding duelist or whatever. But I still felt like they missed an opportunity there to be like, guys, you don't understand. This is one of the coolest characters in Star Wars. Like, you guys, I hope you understand who's on your screen right now. And I just think that, and I'm not sitting here with a solution in mind, but I think that there would have been other ways to really have that be a more impactful addition to the show. So hopefully they do that.
I would agree with that, because if you've seen the Clone Wars, he's obviously got a huge history, with the problem being, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, which a lot of people, there's a sect of people that will only watch the live action stuff, that don't watch the animated stuff, and that's okay.
It's a mistake.
But you do have to find a way to, you're absolutely right. Like, this really cool character shows up and looks badass and Western, etc., but has no backstory. Or if you don't know it, like, to you, he doesn't, like, to us, we're like, oh shit, like, there's Cad Bane.
Yeah.
To a lot of people,
especially there and there, when he kind of just looks like a Power Rangers villain.
Yeah, he kind of,
You know, like it's like,
even those tubes themselves, like that little, like, there's so much backstory, but like, he has those tubes so he can't be force choked. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much there that just, like, I don't know, you don't get unless you've experienced the other material. And yeah, like you said, I love that. Now I'll never unsee that. He really does look like somebody Rita Repulsa would have sent out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That is really funny. Actually, I think that one's really good. There was you've all seen the edited ones. Like, I'll pull this one up here. Like, there's just a little, like, they were just a little bit off. Which I get it. It's not going to be perfect, but when somebody can do this easily.
Ooh, the suspense. Oh,
yeah. Like, they just changed the color just a little bit, fixed his nose, and like, oh, like, that's him.
Yeah, they just made his face a little longer.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, it thinned him up a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, Cad Bane got fat when he got older. He's got a fat face.
Even how well they did like Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like live action Ahsoka's,
Very well
exactly
done.
who it is.
The bits
I
and
mean,
pieces I've seen of
not that you
Hera
wouldn't,
scare me.
yeah, not that you wouldn't like assume, just because if you're close enough with the look, but like it's super, you know, easy to buy for sure.
They've got
Him a little bit less.
they've got an interesting history of like they can nail some animated over and then others they don't. Like Zeb Aurelius looks perfect.
That was so good. Yeah.
Now he is completely 100% CGI, which makes you wonder how much you can see him because he's expensive as hell.
Right. That was my thought. And it was in the daylight, like it was a well lit room and
Yep.
everything. I'm like,
It's
oh,
the
we're not
same-
going to see a lot of this guy.
Same voice actor. There's two ways to look at it. It's either they've got him made, they're going to use him because he is expensive as hell, or they're not going to use him that much because he's expensive as hell to put in the show.
I could see him doing a lot of work in spaceships and showing up as a hologram. Like I could see
Yeah.
him doing. I could see him
Yes.
sharing a lot of information via
Yep.
hologram, via droid.
Then there's the other ones, the original, the Grand Inquisitor from season 1 of Rebels, who comes over to Darth Vader, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show,
That's
and
right.
completely eschews the look of his people. Like they're that those people are presented in the movies, like you know what they look like. They got these weirdly long heads. Like instead, he's got a big old egg. He just
Big old egg. Yeah.
big egg and weird deal. Weird, like just doesn't look good
Because
at all.
he's supposed to be from Utapau, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
just those 10th level thousands of battle droid. Like we've seen him, yeah. You can just get closer to that. Like he was like worse than the Cad Bane, where they just made him like way rounder. And like
he's got an egghead.
It was so they
yeah.
could have that whole stabbing him in the stomach, but him be alive thing. That was another thing we haven't talked about, like how lightsabers just are no longer fatal in modern Star Wars. Like everybody's out here, it's just like it's like a gut shot in an old Western. You
Yeah.
can just get absolutely
There's
lanced.
Like
Lightsaber go
7-year-old
right
Levi.
through you.
There's a really cool comment in the book you're reading, John, about why lightsabers are the nastiest weapon in the galaxy. And it's not a spoiler or anything, but it talks about like how it automatically cuts you and then cauterizes you in an instant.
Exactly.
And they're like, it's the nastiest, most torturous weapon in the whole galaxy. And I'm like, I've never thought of that. Like, it's awful. Like, it really
That's probably the only way Darth Maul survived, right? He gets cut in half, but the
And he just
wound is like
cauterized him.
instantly cauterized. So it's like,
Speaking of weird things that didn't make any sense at the time, but worked out really well, like Darth Maul is awesome in his comeback.
Yes.
And gets shoehorned into Han Solo.
Oh, what's his nuts? The guy who voices him does an incredible job.
Yes.
What is his name?
Is it Warwick? It's not Warwick Davis, is it?
No, it's it's on the tip of my tongue. I hate this.
Let me see here.
Almost got it. Whoa, Peter Serafinowicz? I don't know.
No,
That's not the original guy, huh?
No, he was.
That was the guy for
was
Solo.
Sam
Yeah.
Witwer. Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer. Yes.
There
sorry.
we go.
I said
Yep.
Warwick Davis. Warwick Davis is not him.
But he's the Force Unleashed guy too.
You are correct. Yes,
That's
he is.
right. Which
Yes,
is another.
he
Yes,
is.
I love that the parallels, I guess, between Force Unleashed and the Jedi, because it's like they did the whole, they have a real actor, a recognizable actor playing that role. It was very good. And I meant to we were talking about the Inquisitors, we were talking a little bit about Obi-Wan, and we've talked about the game. So I want to bring this one in while we're talking about random plots and stuff that does or doesn't make sense. Did it bother you guys that how much of the Obi-Wan plot felt like it was ripped from that video game? Like down to the Like it felt like they used a different Inquisitor, but so much of it was just felt like it was the same story. But instead of Cal, we had Princess Leia and Obi-Wan. And I don't understand why you did that. Like, I like playing this game. I'll just play it. Tell me a different story here. It just felt very weird how similar, and I don't remember the numbers, but the main antagonist, the youngling that turned on the whatever sister she was in the show, it felt like she had a very similar arc to the sister in the video game. But yeah, there we go. I love the claw feet from Darth Maul.
The claw meat is just that's Darth Maul on his baddest.
Oh, you mean Trilla?
Yeah, Trilla. Thank you. Yeah. It felt very odd where I was like, you guys just told this story and there's only like 9 of these people, aren't there? Why are you doing the same story with someone that's not this person from the video game? Like what is this? I get that it was a cool
they were
story.
both second. They were both second sister.
Right? Was it right? That's what
I
thought.
I think no, because I actually thought this and I had to look this up. I'm gonna
okay,
read
perfect. Good. I'm glad someone solved it.
Certainly be wrong, yeah.
Because it really gave me a
I'll read them off. I think there's 9.
I've seen this before. That's just kind of how I felt.
I think there's so this says there's 12 Inquisitors, and that makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna just go through these. You got the Grand Inquisitor, who is an egghead in live action and is badass as hell in a Rebel
season 1. The Jedi code is like an itch.
Reva is the third. Reva is the third sister.
Okay.
So this is Trilla. They're either brother or sister. They all have numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth brother is in Obi-Wan. He is also in the book you are reading, John. If you haven't found that out yet, he's a player in that book. Seventh sister is in Rebels. Eighth brother is also in Rebels. Sixth brother is in the Ahsoka novel. I don't know much about him. There's a 10th brother who is
brother
Jedi
Hulk Hogan.
Mace Windu comic, it looks like. Second sister is Trilla. So second sister is Trilla, third sister is Reva. So she's the main antagonist there. Ninth sister is also in the video game. She is the big monster.
Took me forever to beat that boss.
Yeah,
I had to look it up. I had to get help.
There's a Twi'lek Inquisitor that is not known much about. He shows up in Dark Lord of the Sith. And then there's another unknown female Inquisitor.
Ooh, I like that. I like some unknown Inquisitors, and we can pop back up. But
there's also in Tales of the Jedi. Have you guys watched those shorts?
Fuck yeah.
They're awesome, by the way. Have you seen them?
Yeah. Is that the one that was where they all were styled in anime or something like that?
No, that's Visions.
That's Visions. No, I haven't seen either.
They're on my list. Came out. I've heard Visions season 2 is really good. Tales of the Jedi follows 2 characters. It follows Ahsoka, and it follows Count Dooku and then him turning into Count Dooku. So he's got a really cool story, but they're very good. They're very short. Aren't they like 15 minutes long, John? Am I right there? So they're very quick.
Yeah. It wasn't there wasn't a lot of lead up to it really either.
Yes. It was kind of
it just came
weird throughout. There's 3 episodes. There's 6 episodes total. But I forgot about this one. This Inquisitor is in that show.
Oh, okay.
And there's literally nothing known about him, but he looks badass as hell.
That is I don't think I've seen. I mean, I don't know if that's a mask, but it looks.
It's definitely a mask, and he's really cool.
Yeah.
But he is in this Tales of the Jedi show, and those are cool too, Kev. I completely forgot about those. They are canon, and they're very fun to watch. They're really quick too. Very, very easy.
I'm gonna watch that right after this, to be honest.
Yeah, they're a breeze to get through too.
You get through them all really quick in there. It's just Ahsoka and Count Dooku, and it's actually there's pretty important stuff happening in there, which is cool.
2 of my favorites. Listen, I know we're getting here long, so we'll have to do my Count Dooku appreciation episode some other time. But for a character that may have been thrown in because George Lucas had to pivot from his original plan of making Jar Jar Binks the big bad the second, not the big bad, but the apprentice to Darth Sidious. Some people kind of felt like, hey, where the hell did Dooku come from? He was just thrown in here randomly in episode 2. But all that being said, it was Christopher Lee, who is just one of the greatest actors of
Fantastic.
all time. So you couldn't have found a better guy to play the role, who was actually a trained swordsman, by the way. Like, he's the
Is he
one.
really?
The reason his
Yeah.
hilt is the way that he asked for that. The reason Dooku has that crazy hilt is because
That's
Christopher
pretty dope.
Lee is a fucking professional fencer. Like, he knew his
I
swords.
didn't know that at all.
Yeah. That's why, yeah. So yeah, I love the character, but then you hear about the whole separatist thing, and because there's that deleted scene, right, where Obi-Wan's talking to one of the librarians, and she's talking about how Count Dooku reminded her of you, quite like your old master Qui-Gon Jinn. You know?
Jocasta Nu, I assume.
Yeah,
that's
and
the
it's
name.
just like, why the fuck did you cut that scene, by the way, guys? But
'Cause they
secondly,
had no idea what they were doing.
it's just one of the most, like, I love Count Dooku because he's like a tragic hero. Like, when you think of like something Shakespearean or something, like seemed like he had good intentions, and then it starts to really fall. It's very complicated. It's not black and white with Dooku. He's very much a gray character.
And
one of my favorites.
those shows will flesh on that quite a bit more.
I was just gonna say you're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it. Yep.
Let's go.
And they're short, but again, it's very his arc's really good. Ahsoka's got a good one too, but his more is kind of Ahsoka kind of jumps around a little bit. His is like straight through. It's pretty cool.
His is kind of something like I feel like there was a lot of, I feel like a lot of people wanted that.
Yes, they wanted that little backstory.
More so than with her, just because it.
We've seen her a ton. We've had a lot.
Seen her a ton. Yeah, yep. Exactly. But yeah, it's so good. That's one of the best things out for sure.
Very, very good. Yes. We are an hour and a half in, fellas. We have done very well for just kind of winging this. Do we have anything else we want to touch on? Do we got anything else we want to go with? Do we want to? I guess I do want to. I want to pull up just because me and Kev talked about it pre-show. I kind of glanced at it. Do we think Dave Filoni's movie is going to be this? If I can get this cursor over here. We talk about pulling from Legends. We talk about all that. Is this going to be the Dave Filoni movie? Is this what it is?
I would not be surprised.
I hope so. Please, please, please. I say awesome. Yes. John, what do you think?
Yeah. Bucket. That would be, it would make sense because we already have little nuggets that kind of spread out. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like that's Heir to the Empire. Yeah, Trev. Yeah.
Oh, it's all right, Trev. We appreciate you for being here.
We love you, buddy. We love you.
Absolutely.
Heir to the Empire is given a lot of credit for re-energizing Star Wars in the early 90s and leading to the prequel trilogy because it was kind of a dark, not necessarily dark in a bad way, just a dark as a content release from the movies to this. And then when Heir to the Empire came out, it's really when it kind of started to blow back up. And then you got the prequels, and then it went dark again.
Yep. Yeah, this reminds me of my heyday when I was a 9-year-old who you just couldn't get enough books in front of me. I think I read every possible. Did you guys ever read? There was a series about Obi-Wan as a Jedi apprentice. You guys ever read those novels? There's a lot of interesting stuff.
Is that just called like Master and?
I'd have to look it up, to be honest.
I've got two really good ones right here. If you guys, these are canon too.
Ooh,
Dark Disciple is really good. This is Quinlan Voss. This one's really good. Quinlan Voss and Asajj Ventress.
Yep,
very good. And this is the one that kind of got me into the Star Wars books. Is Lords of the Sith. It's Vader and Palpatine get stranded on a planet together.
Oh,
both
snap.
canon,
right.
Both very good. The Dark Disciple deals with Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss going to Dathomir, and Dark Disciple or Lords of the Sith is those two stuck on a planet together, and you get a really cool look into Darth Vader's head because they spend a lot of time inside the helmet.
Oh, nice. Okay,
so,
I like
right
that
back here. They spend a lot of time in the Chrome Dome back here,
just like you do. No,
I've never been in that helmet. I don't think
No, but I think I do think Heir to the Empire is where we're gonna go, because not only does it just make a lot of sense, it's the best possible. Like, why invent a new villain when you have this one ready made? But also, it's kind of been Dave Filoni's things. At least I don't want to. I want to give him all the credit just because I've seen what he did before, and maybe Jon Favreau deserves some of this credit. I think Favreau is the guy who brings all the movie references. Like, Favreau's the one bringing the old Western stuff and like the other. And I think Filoni's the one who's like, hey, here are these storylines from Legends we can pull. Because almost every time he brings us something new, it's just something that he knows about that a lot of us have forgotten about because it's not canon anymore. And he's able to bring it back and make it canon. So because story wise, it makes sense, but also logistic wise, like, that's why I think it's just naturally that's where we're going to go. And if they go somewhere else, I hope they have a really good creative way of getting there, because whatever big bad they could create, it's not going to be better than Thrawn. And it's not their fault that these books exist. But again, sometimes, what's the old saying? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Like, just run with it, baby. It's Thrawn. Thrawn's the answer.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I guess my final question to you two then, if Heir to the Empire is where we think we're heading, should Luke Skywalker show up? Because he is a major player in those books. John, what are your thoughts?
Yes, because we all know that where we're going on the canon timeline is towards a castrated version of Luke.
Yeah.
So
blue milk.
Let's use this era to kind of bring him back, because he's a huge part of that, and he was so badass.
I think that's what you would get to see. Like, the Mandalorian finale of season 2 gave us that super powered version of him. You could get a full movie of him instead, and it would probably satiate people's taste and make them happy and get rid of old codger Luke Skywalker drinking his blue
one
milk
X-Wing, we're saved,
and hanging out with his porgs.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude, I'm still pissed about that.
Yeah, that's tough. I actually kind of enjoy what they tried to do with The Last Jedi. Like, I don't hate it like a lot of people. Like, I like that they try to do something different, but nothing in the world points to Luke Skywalker ever doing that.
Yeah.
No.
That's the part. Like, if we could take the Luke Skywalker out of Last Jedi, I really liked.
Yeah.
First of all, they made the biggest mistake they ever made was not giving one person the reins for all 3 movies. Like, so stupid.
Or at least a straight story through. Like, here's the story, now adapt it. Or
the only reason we have an original trilogy is because the script that George Lucas sat down to write got too big, and so. He took the first third of his story and said, I will make Star Wars. And then it luckily for all of us, it was a hit. And so he had 2 and 3 ready to go. But it wasn't like, oh, fuck, I made a good movie. How do I make a sequel?
Correct,
no, there was already a story there. Whereas these guys were just, okay, you get number 1, you get number 2, but don't tell me what you're doing for 3 because I don't care. And then we're going to fire that guy anyway and bring JJ and his fucking mystery box back.
Yeah, JJ was not supposed to be on 3. It was, who was it?
I can't remember, but he was let go and they brought.
No,
they had because they had a different guy for each one, which was stupid. I mean, from the beginning, it was always
Josh Trank? Was it the Chronicle guy? Was it maybe him? Because then he had a flop. Let me see.
Yeah, you'll have to look it up because I don't remember.
I think it was Josh. So my guess is it was Josh Trank who directed Chronicle, which is a fantastic movie if you guys have never seen it. But then he did something else and it flopped horribly right before that.
And so, in typical Kathleen Kennedy, she pulled the rug. Just like remember when the guys from Game of Thrones were going to have their own Star Wars trilogy, and they got so excited about it that they rushed the last season of their show, and then they lost the job.
Yes, that's okay. So it was Colin Trevorrow.
There we go.
World. That's who it was. I was wrong.
I mean, no big loss there in my personal opinion.
But I think
I'm not a big Jurassic World fan, but
so Jurassic World came out kind of bombed, and then they pulled him off it. They said creative differences, but you know how that is.
I mean, which again, in all fairness, if he had an idea for 9, but nobody tells him what's going on in 7 or 8, and then then he watches The Last Jedi, because although I like it now, I think a lot of us had a strong reaction to The Last Jedi, one way or another, because it looked to subvert expectations in a lot of ways. And I like some of the stuff Rian Johnson did. I think some of his other movies prove that he knows what he's doing.
Oh, the Knives Out movies are freaking great. Glass Onion is so
Glass Onion is like the perfect anti-mystery. Like, it's just, oh my God, we could spend 2 hours talking about that movie.
Yep.
It's so good. So I refuse to believe that he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm more inclined to believe that J.J. Abrams does not know what he's doing, because he's one of the biggest nepotism hires in the history of nepotism or getting jobs. And
Star Trek, the second Star Trek movie, the Khan movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when both your parents are movie producers. That's what happens.
Yep.
You just get to keep making stories no matter what. Lost had its run. So I can't say he's never done anything good, but I don't.
Topic. Lost is my favorite television show ever, and I understand it. I get the weirdness of the ending and how it makes no sense. But man, Lost was a fantastic show for a long time.
Right. Yeah. So like, I don't want to completely just off the top rope elbow drop J.J. Abrams like he's never done any. But the mystery box is not a cure all for every story. The mystery box is a good opening scene. Like it's like the guy learned how to write the first chapter of a great book and never bothered to learn anything else about writing or storytelling. And so he's just like, well, we have this mystery box and you don't know. And by the end of the movie, we'll have people in space who are fighting on top of a spaceship, and Palpatine will bury thousands of Star Destroyers under the ground, because it makes perfect sense that operating ships would be under the ground. No, but it looks cool. Like J.J. Abrams should be in charge of visual effects, right? Like, he should not be writing movies. You should be like, JJ, here are some scenes, go do your thing.
Go make this look really cool, bud.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Give him and Michael Bay a couple Adderall and have him have him make a blockbuster.
Whoa.
Dude, I once tweeted that J.J. Abrams should be quartered in the town square for his transgressions.
Well, I feel like I'm in a safe space then now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was even a little harsher on him because
Trev giving me a Lost shout out here. I didn't know Trev had seen Lost. It's so like I love it, and it's really weird in the middle because they hadn't. Lost is a show they didn't write all the way through. If you guys didn't know this,
what
they were writing a season by season.
Doesn't sound like J.J. Abrams at all.
And then I don't remember if there was a writer's strike or something, but then they announced the end of Lost, and then it's like a bad, like weird season. And all of a sudden, it goes and gets really, really good until it gets really weird at the end, and they don't answer any questions. And I understand people's hate on the purgatory thing. Like, I'm okay with it, but I get like we didn't get any answers. Nothing made sense. Like, what the fuck did we just watch? I get it. I understand it. My 10 cents on Lost is it's always been about the characters. It was never about the story. The story never mattered. We just cared about the characters.
And I will always give stories this, like, if, for instance, Game of Thrones, right? I think we all hate that last season, but the only reason we hate it is because all the seasons before it were so good. And so you have like the enemy to all of our happiness is our own expectations. The only time you get upset is when your expectations are not met. And you're like, oh, I thought this would happen, and it didn't. So, it's a victim of their own success, yes. But,
man. Yeah, Trev, there's always some weird thing going on. Like, do you guys know there's a writer's strike right now, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I saw this one today. I think it was just Rings. The last writer's strike was wild when I'll never forget Stephen Colbert going on national TV without the writers and trying to do a show, and it was actually really fucking funny. So
I need to go find that.
So the directors of the Rings of Power, or the showrunners, are also writers. So they have a dual role, and anybody that has a dual role right now has to, like, they can't break their guild obligations. So the Rings of Power is getting finished right now without the showrunners on set.
Wow.
Like, because they are writers, they can't be. Like, if they weren't writers, they could finish the show. But because, so they are offset right now as the show is finishing up, like, principal, filming, photography, everything.
Wow. And meanwhile, the suits are like, hey, we can't miss a deadline. Who cares if the story's shit? We got to hit our payday. So somebody fart something out here.
Yep. So like it's a weird deal. Like House of Dragons filming, and I think they're good, but like these shows that are going, like they should be okay, but then there's like the Rings of Power. All so their showrunners are bound by the rule that they are part of the guild, and it's a whole mess of a deal.
Listen, and if you don't know how important showrunners are, go watch the
Yes.
first season of The Walking Dead and then go watch every season after it, because it got significantly worse when they refused to pay Frank Darabont. All right. So showrunners are incredibly important.
Real quick off topic. The first couple seasons of Walking Dead I really enjoyed, and then I realized that it was still going on like 2 years ago.
That's another Sam Witwer, right there. Another guy who would have had a much bigger role actually in The Walking Dead had AMC not gotten cheap and said, hey, make us way more money on a way smaller budget, and also we're going to fire the guy who is the reason you all came to work here on a pay cut. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's why some of the characters got killed off early, by the way, because they weren't going to work for that pay cut anymore. They did it to come work for a director that they love. Sorry, we're not here to talk about The Walking Dead, but it's very important to have the person with the vision be there. It's like not having a quarterback, and then also not having your backup. It's like, sorry, James, this is probably a little too close to home, but it's like pulling a dude off the practice squad to have to go play in a playoff game. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. It wasn't planned, I promise.
Gosh dang it.
I was like, shit, I'm about to make a Josh Dobbs reference and I didn't even mean to.
Oh, that's great. You can talk about that. Another throwback. Like, you guys remember the show Heroes back in the day?
Yes, Writer Strike killed it.
If you only watch season 1, it's one of the best shows you'll ever see.
It was really good season 1.
And then the creative director,
Panettiere.
Yep.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was?
Hayden Panettiere, right?
Hayden Panettiere, yes. And the Asian guy that's really cool.
He forgot his name.
Hero?
His name is Hero. Yeah.
Hiro Nakamura, right? Yeah. But it's a perfect thing, like the writer strike, and then they lost the creative producer, like you talk about. He left, and then he comes back for like 2 episodes in like season 3, and it's like, you're like, oh my god, maybe this is going to be good, and then he left again. And you're like, oh god, nope, lost that show. So, well, fellas, we are an hour and 46 minutes in. Very proud of us. We had no script on this, just threw it together. I don't even have a name for this show yet, but it will be coming back. Why don't you guys give us a little send off? Where can we find you during the week normally when we're not nerding out on a Friday night?
Yeah, you can catch me nerding out about NFL football on Tuesday nights, 8 Central, 9 Eastern, on Bite Size Sports with a couple of co-hosts of mine. And then sporadically throughout some of our playback stuff we do on the channel as well. And then Thursdays, I'm on Minnesota Sports Talk, talking Vikings, usually 7 Central.
Nice.
Kev, where can we find you at, buddy?
You can find me in St. Louis rolling on dubs. Sorry, no, that one's for Nate, who's actually in St. Louis. But you can find me on Twitter at @KevNevick_. You can also find me on our parent channel right there, Bite Size Sports, every Thursday with that man right there, James.
Pointing the wrong direction, but you got us close. He's the other one. He's coming on with us sometime too.
We will have John soon enough. Now, see, then I got it wrong again. But either way,
I pointed the wrong. I went that way.
There we go, boys. And so
I always try to point to my Vikings helmet and do the right thing.
You can find me, The Bounce, Thursday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. We also will be starting up our late night program, Late Night Bites. Look out for that starting Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. Will be right after ADP, Another Damn Fantasy Podcast. So be sure to check that out. And otherwise, just find me on random bite-sized sports programming throughout the week. James, it's your turn, sir.
I'm every Thursday 9:00 with you, Kevin, on The Bounce. Please like, subscribe. We don't have a set schedule on this show yet. We're figuring this all out. We don't have a name for it yet, but we want to talk Star Wars. I think we did that tonight. We were an hour and 50 minutes in, and I feel like we could go on forever. This has happened before.
I have many hours left. Yeah,
I do got to talk NBA for 1 second. We have the late game. It's coming down. It looks like the Suns are going to win. They're up 7 with up 9 with 1:05 left, Kev.
Okay.
Devin
okay.
Booker has 40. Holy crap. D-Book has 45, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. He is 20 of 25 from the field. He has not shot a single free throw.
45. How much time's left?
He's 105.
105. Wow.
20 of 25 from the field. That is unbelievable. His counterpart, Kevin Durant, is 36 on 30 shots.
Oof,
11 of
not
30.
bad.
Nobody
So
else in double
those-
figures.
Nobody else in double figures, and that's how this
And
series
everyone
gonna
else is
be.
getting rebounds. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes. They're
Holy
getting-
Jokic with a monster triple double though
Yeah.
too. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
he's third 26, 17, and 15. Jamal Murray's third. The Nuggets were down pretty big early, and that's kind of what they came back, took a small lead. I thought that Phoenix would get this one. Going back home, I still like the Nuggets in 5. I've been all over that.
Had to have it game, yeah.
You
But
had to.
how easy to replicate is 81 between Booker and Durant.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
20 for
No.
25.
25 shots for 45 points on 25 shots is crazy.
9
Right, yeah,
assists, too.
I love
Yeah,
Devin
minus
Booker. He's
six.
not going to be that efficient.
No.
Even maybe one more time this series. Like, so yeah, and if it takes this is what it takes for them to beat Denver. So
Yeah,
especially
it's just what they have
shorthanded.
to do. We talked
Mhm.
about it last night. 42 minutes and 41 minutes for those two guys. Man, it's a lot.
And more importantly, because the bounce wasn't here to steer him wrong.
Yes,
Trevor's able to
There
win
is no
some
curse
bets
on this
here.
show. There's no curse on this show. So thank you
That's
guys for
great.
joining me tonight. We will be back. I don't know when, but we'll get it figured out. So until next time, from a galaxy right in front of your computer screen, not very far away at all. We'll see you then.